When it's time for me to do my multi-IFR flight test, I always like to take a tissue that I can count on, and that is Royale. Royale is soft and strong, and if I fail my flight test, Royale is able to capture all the tears of my shame and disgrace. Royale, if I can cry in one, so can you. Royale tissues, ready for your next failure. Hello everybody, we're going to talk about some more aviation stuff here today, and today I'm going to be going over on how to clean up your cockpit so that it's not a big mess in there. What I'm seeing lately, especially on YouTube, is cockpits that are overloaded and people not being organized. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you some little tricks today, and it's easy. You can do this as soon as you watch this video. It's not hard. What I'm seeing here is that people are creating a lot more work than they have to. So I'm going to give you some shortcuts, some tips. So tip number one, when you're going to do a flight, either VFR or IFR, you can use this method. The other thing I'm going to show you today too is go over some weather and how you can do a VFR flight when you can't do an IFR flight because there's icing up top. And you're going to fly to your destination without getting all iced up. I'm going to be going over that as well today. But first we're going to start off with your cockpit and how we're going to get that set up. You're going to need one of these. This is one of these little black clippy things. So just keep that in mind. You're going to have to buy one of those. They're about 30 cents. Alright, so as you see here, I got some title pages in front of me. And what you're going to do is you're going to write down departure airport right here, and you got a paper clip. And what you're going to do is you're going to put all the approach plates for the airport that you're departing. Once again, this can be used for VFR flight and IFR flight. If you're a VFR pilot, don't worry about it. What the plates will do is just give you tower and ground frequency in the runway. So that's what you're looking at right now, and you see your VNC, you can see the tower frequency. But with the IFR approach plates, they're a lot easier to read. So, and you're going to do ongoing training, I hope. So just follow this method. So you put your approach plates on here for your departure. Then you're going to have your arrival airport where you're going, and you're going to have the approach plates there as well. And that's how you're going to do it, is separate them so you don't have all these bundles lying around and shifting through paper in your cockpit while you're trying to fly. Then you're going to have approach plates for your alternate airport. And it's always good to have an alternate airport even when you're VFR in case you have a mechanical problem, you need to divert or something. So an alternate airport is good, and have all the plates there as well. It also gives you the ground elevation of the airport too for the pattern altitude. And lastly, you're going to have your flight plan, your weight and balance, and your weather. Alright? And that's all going to go in there. And what you're going to do is you're going to do your flight planning the night before. What I think's going on here is people are doing their flight planning at the last second and going flying. That is not a good thing to do. You want to flight plan the day before, put on a pot of coffee, put out your VNC chart on the table, alright, and then start going through your VNC chart. Not your LO chart, not your LO chart, your VNC chart. Why? You want to take a look at all the airspace and also terrain and towers and stuff like that that can interfere with you if you ever have to do a descent and fly low level to get somewhere because something's gone wrong in your airplane. You can have the low level charts also on board the aircraft as well. But for flight planning, just use the VNC. Then, when you have your flight planning done, you're going to print off those approach plates and stick them all on here. And then you're going to make a cheat sheet. I'm going to put this up on the screen for you. And what this cheat sheet is when you're flying, this is all you need. You don't need phones, you don't need tablets. You got one piece of paper, and you also have your approach plate, which you can clip on your yoke when you're flying. Alright? Really simple. And then when you go out to the airplane after you file, you just clip this and take it to the airplane and put it in the side pocket. Alright, and now you're ready to go flying. And what's the first thing you do? Well, we're going to go flying. We get our departure. And we already got our weather, so we know we're taking off, say, runway 27. I take my departure and I pull out runway 27 and I stick it in the yoke. And then I just put the rest of this back inside the pocket so it's out of the way. And then this I can just kind of keep on my lap. And you notice the back of it is clear. So if you got a clipboard or something, you can write down all your clearances on here or anything else that you need to write on. So you got some scrap paper. So your whole flight is going to be here. Alright? So now I'm going to put this up on the screen. And what this is you can see it's done in pen. No typing or anything like that. I just want you to do this in pen. Because with a piece of paper and a pen, you can do it anywhere. Alright? In a hotel room, in a coffee shop, anything. Now when you take a look at this, we're going to be doing a GPS direct flight. And the reason why I'm going over this today is because a 310 crashed there about a month or so ago. And the guy crashed because he went up, climbed into ice, and got iced up and crashed. But if you take a look at the bottom of the sheet there, the weather for that day was 3,000 feet overcast, 10 statute miles visibility, and a -11. So yeah, it was a VFR day, and the guy climbed up, went to 7,000 feet, got iced up, and then crashed. And then taking a look at where he was in the Texas area and the terrain that he was flying in, he could have easily flown at 2,500 feet with 1,000 foot clearance down below, and that would make him legal for flying over a built-up area. So you would be within air regulations. Alright, so now that we have this sheet here, we take all the information from what you looked at last night and you did your flight planning, you got your charts and your weight and balance and everything, and then you can see at the top of the page I just put 100 nautical miles. Okay, so this is just basically a generic plate here that you can use for any flight that you're going to do. So I just made this a 100 nautical mile flight, and I didn't even use it really in airport. I just used airport A, as you can see in the left right here, 800 feet with a tower frequency of 120.1. And on the far side there you see airport B, 600 feet, tower frequency 118.4. That's all in my flight planning and my proper flight planning documents, but this is my cheat sheet. Now, if you take a look at this, if you know you're going from A and you're going to fly east all the way to airport B, all you got to do is put in the GPS and go direct. And now, since you did all the calculations by using your ruler and knowing where you are, by doing your flight planning the night before, as soon as you take off out of airport A, you know when you see 80 miles away from airport B, you're going to be entering airspace. And that is airport X, right down here, 1,000 feet, and tower frequency 123.5. So you're going to be flying out VFR 2,500 feet to beat the ice. You're not going to climb up and start getting ice at 3,000 feet. You're going to fly at 2,500 feet. And then when you get to about 85 miles before you enter the zone, you're going to contact the tower at X and ask them for clearance to go through the zone. Most likely, if you're going to go through the tip of the zone there at low altitude, the tower's just going to tell you to stay 1,200 on the code and stay with them until clear. Alright? And then he'll say clear the zone. He might move you around if you need to, but remember, you're VFR, so if he says turn left and you're going to go into cloud, you just tell him unable. Then he has to legally turn IFR traffic, not you. Okay? That's just a scenario that you might run into. But in this case here, most likely if you're just skirting a control zone, that won't be an issue. And as you're flying, you can see right in the middle of the sheet there, I put a tower at 1,500 feet, 50 miles back. Now, towers are bad sometimes, but towers can also be good for safety. And you're going to say, how can a tower be good for safety?
Captain, why should I aim at such a structure?
Mine's Bob. Just get on with the job.
Simple. Since that tower is on your track line and you got 10 miles visibility, 10 miles away or more, you're going to start seeing that tower in the distance. what that's going to allow you to do is not look at your GPS and your heading indicator. It's going to allow you to look outside the window and fly directly to that tower. And then you're able to what? Look for traffic.
Fascinating.
Your head's not buried in the cockpit. You're looking outside and you're flying directly to that tower. Once you get to that tower, you can see you're 50 nautical miles. You're halfway to your destination. And now you're coming into a perforated box area. That's you looking at your map the night before, taking a look at the terrain along your route, along the line. And now you got some rolling hills here, and the terrain goes up to 1,400 feet. All right? So you know that's the highest point along your trip that you're going to have terrain. So that's really important to take a good look at your map the night before so you can really see where the terrain is, because terrain is not good if it gets too high on you, if you know what I mean. So there's your terrain, and then as you look down at the bottom there, you can see 40 to 30 miles. So when you're flying that line, when you see 40 miles to your destination, you know that terrain has now risen a little bit. And then when you see 30 miles, you know the terrain has now gone back down. That means you're over the hump. And now you proceed to that airport. Airport B, 600 feet. Pattern altitude is going to be 1,600. You pull out your arrivals. You already know, since you checked the weather, that runway 09 on the METAR is in use. You can get the ATIS too. Pull it out, runway 09, because you checked the weather before you left. And then you put runway 09. Now you can go ahead, listen to the ATIS, get information, Mike or Gulf or whatever it is, just to make sure it is runway 09. And then keep flying until you get to about 5 nautical miles, which is the edge of the zone. Obviously you're going to call them sooner. And then tell them you're inbound VFR with information, Mike or hotel or whatever it may be. And you can see the tower frequencies there, and you just go in and you land. And that's it. Pretty simple. And that's how I fly. I spend the time to do the flight planning the night before. I use forecasted winds to do all my fuel calculations. I do a good scan of where I'm going to be flying for restricted airspace, control zones, high terrain. And now I got a mental situation awareness for my flight tomorrow. And you can see, all you have to do is put in the GPS direct to B and then measure everything off, and you can see it by using this cheat sheet where everything's going to be. You're going to see where the control zone is for X airport. You're going to know where your towers are. You're going to know where the high terrain is. You're going to know the circuit altitude, and you're going to know the tower frequencies. See how easy that was? And you can do that. And I want you to try that. Now you're not fumbling around inside your cockpit looking for this chart, that chart, going through books. It's all on this one sheet the night before. The only thing you're doing is just pulling out the approach plates to put on your yoke for any additional information. That's it. And that would be probably the ATIS and the ground frequency once you arrive. And that's how simple it is. And you don't have to go file IFR just because you have an IFR rating. You only file IFR if it suits the day of the operation. If you get icing conditions, you stay clear of cloud and you go out VFR. And if it's good, the terrain, you can do it. Now, I wouldn't recommend this through mountainous area. I wouldn't go flying through Colorado doing this, or say California. But if you're in Texas or Florida or Oklahoma, New York State, you could do this quite easily. So it just depends on where you're operating. But this is a really good method. I've used it all the time. And now when I have an emergency, which I've had emergencies in my plane, I didn't have junk all over the place. I had a nice open cockpit, lots of room to move my hands. I didn't have a tablet blocking my view of my switches, of my of my instrument panel. It's just a lot easier. So I want you to go home and try this the next time you go flying, and try this method. And you'll find that you're going to do more work pre-flying or preparing your flight the day before, but once you get in the cockpit, it's easy. And if you're going up with professional pilots or some other pilots, they're going to see that you're on top of your game. You're not disorganized. You're completely organized from A to B, literally. All right, so that's my advice for the day. Free tip, and go ahead and try this method. You're going to find that you're going to be a lot more aware in the aircraft. You're going to enjoy flying more, and your airplane's not going to be cluttered with books and tablets and phones and stuff like that. If you got that stuff, use it for your flight planning. Use your computer for flight planning. Get your approach plates, print them off, use your phone or whatever you got to do. But as soon as you get in the cockpit, all that stuff goes in your flight bag. The only thing you got is this and your charts and this up here. Get ready for an emergency. Every time you fly, always prepare for an emergency. That's why you got to learn your flows too. Checklists are good, but it's not a to-do list. It's a checklist, and what you got to do is flows. We'll go over flows in another video. But anyways, that's it for the day, and hey, go ahead and try it, and so long for next time. Take care, everybody.
Fascinating. Fascinating.
Fascinating. Please, Spock, do me a favor. And don't say it's fascinating.
No. But it is interesting.